Debutantes. I hope everyone is doing well. Today I thought I would show you how to create something. I'm going to show you in just a minute, but I wanted to talk to you about Pinterest. We all are on Pinterest. If you're not, you need to be on Pinterest. But anyway, a lot of us pin like crazy, but we never create any of our pins. So today this is actually a Pinterest inspired craft. I am teaching a class on this at Shop 561. But I wanted to show you what we're going to create today, and also encourage everyone to not just pin things, but to get out there and create something that you've pinned. If you all would like to send me some of your pins that you would like me to show you how to do, or give it a try, please send those down to me in the comments or on my Facebook page. I want to apologize for the traffic noise. It has been really rainy outside, so inside my house is super dark. So I had to film this intro outside. So anyway, please send me your pins. Let me know if there's something you would like me to show you how to do, or maybe include in a video. But anyway, so this is what we're going to make today. It's a little welcome sign. It is Pinterest inspired, and I will link the pin in the description box. So let me show you how we got started and everything that we'll need for this project. It's a bug. That's the joys of being outside in Florida. All right, let's get started. Alright, let me show you what we started with. I purchased this 6-foot tall dog-eared fence slats, like the wooden fence. It's really thin, probably maybe ½ an inch. And these were, I think, $1.29 for a 6-foot piece. I bought 3 of them because I'm having the class, so I actually had Home Depot cut them for me. They are 17 inches long, and that enabled me to cut the dog-eared end off of the board. So these are the stack of boards that we're going to work with. The next thing we did was we measured where we wanted to put the screw to hold the pipe clamp that will hold the mason jar. So we went ahead and marked that. So the next thing I'm going to do is, because these boards, even though they're kind of rustic, I think they're just a little light, so I want to get some stain and just rub some stain on there and rub it off. The next thing I did before I stained, I just want to quick, is I just kind of wiped them down with some sandpaper. I didn't go crazy and sand them. I just kind of got the burrs off, got the dust off, anything that might give you a splinter, because I still wanted the board to look very, very rustic. So these are actually pressure treated. If you're gonna have your piece outside, that's not a bad idea to get pressure treated wood. So let me go ahead and put some stain on these, and we can go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, I have stained all of the boards, and I've just kind of set them out in the sun to dry. I put the original fence post next to it so you can kind of see the color. The stain, I'll have to go back in there and show you what stain I used. I really just used the stain I happen to have on hand. It was nothing special. I did start with the backs of the boards, just in case I put too much stain on the rag, I could have less stain on the front. All I used was one of my husband's old socks, and of course I have my shop gloves that I always wear when I'm staining or whatnot. So really I didn't want a full coverage stain. I just wanted it to kind of mimic a natural aging, so that you see that it's not, fully dark. There's white spots, and there's some, little spots that the stain did not take, but that's the look I was going for. So again, here is the fence post before stain, and now let me go see what type of stain I used, because some of you, I'm sure, will ask. Alright guys, the wood stain I used was Minwax Wood Finish. It's Provincial 211. Like I said, look at how old this can is. This is just something I had laying around in the shop from a different project. So, I mean, you can buy little samples of stain. You don't need to buy this big container, but really if you have something laying around, just use that or leave it the natural color. Now, the one thing that I do have left to do is at the very top of the board, I need to drill 2 holes in the 2 corners to hold the wire that will hang this. The original one showed eye hooks with some chain through it, but I'm just afraid that the eye hooks will work their way out of this thin wood. So we're gonna go ahead and drill the holes, and then I will get to stenciling. All right, so we are going to go over a few other of the items that you may need. We did drill the holes. I don't know if you can see, there's a hole there, and there's a hole there. and that will be for this wire to hang it. But let me just show you. We'll need some type of brush. Foam brush always works well. Some paint for the stencil and to help age the wood just a little bit. Some screwdrivers and some nippers and needle nose pliers for the wire. The screwdrivers are to screw the hose clamps. Well, these are called steel clamps. This is the 1 3/4, 2 3/4 inch size. This is a contractor's pack. You got 10 for less than $10 and they were $1.21 a piece. So I went ahead and picked up the contractor's pack. We are using a pint size mason jar, and then we are using a number 8 1/2-inch screw, and that will actually screw this hose clamp. Let me see if I can take one out for you. There we go. This hose clamp will get screwed here where our mark is, and then the mason jar will slip in. And then of course you will need a stencil, or if you are really good at freehanding, something that says what you want it to say. It could say welcome, you could use somebody's house number. Don't get stuck on the welcome, make it say anything you want. So these are the items that we will need to finish this project. Okay, so the next step is we just want to add a little bit of dry brushed white paint to the front of this to give it more of an aged look. I have a little bit of paint on my plate. I'm just going to dip my brush in, but I'm going to really try to get a lot of that paint off. Just dabbing it like that. And then I'm just going to very, very lightly go across the board just to give it some little bit of gray. Just to make it look like it's been out in the weather, just a little bit more. If you want a little bit more, just dab in where you've dried off. And this just kind of makes it look a little bit more aged than just the stain. If you leave wood out in the weather, it kind of gets like a white, chalky, weathered appearance. So I kind of like that. Makes it look a little bit more aged. Here's a little spot that looks a little harsh, so I'm just going to take the edge of my brush and rub it. Then the next thing is we are going to attach our hose clamp to the front. My husband did drill a hole, but that's not really necessary to do. You can if you want. So I'm going to take one of my screws, which my husband opened right in the middle of the package. Why he didn't open it at the top so I could tape them shut, I don't know. So I'm going to take this screw. This happens to have a Phillips head, but my flathead will fit in there. This is kind of really easy stuff. You can kind of put the screw into the hole and just push on it, and basically you're just kind of putting a little notch to start your screw. So I'm going to put it through my hose clamp. I'm going to find that little divot that I just made by pushing the screw down. Remember guys, this is not perfect. This is just, you know, handcrafted. You want it to look handcrafted. And then you're just going to you have to really push hard and screw that down. You could open the hose clamp if you wanted to make it easier, but you know, that's like an extra step. So my divot is not big enough. I'm going to kind of start this a little bit without the hose clamp, just to give me more of a start. There we go. So I'm going to back that out. You could put some E6000 on the tip of the screw if you were worried about it coming out. I'm not really worried about that, if I could get it all together. All right, so I know this part is super exciting. So the key is to really push hard on the screw and get it down. The wood is really soft, it's just pine. You really shouldn't have too much of a struggle. If you can get the hose clamp out of the way, that's always helpful. I know you can't really see what I'm doing here, people, I'm sorry. So basically I'm just going to finish screwing that down onto the board, and then we will line up our stencil and we'll move on to the next step. Okay, I have tightened down my screw and I have slid the mason jar down into the clamp, and as you can tell, it's really too big. So what I want to show you is on these hose clamps, there's a screw, and this tightens it and backs it out. So all I'm going to do to this one, which you can't really see, is I am just going to screw this so that it makes the clamp tighter. You could probably use your fingers. And I don't know if you can see that this little thing right here is making the hose clamp much smaller. So that's how you work that. And if it comes apart, you can just unscrew this whole thing. Okay, now I got it jammed. Anyway, this comes apart. You just slide that back in there and screw it, and it goes right back together. So now I'm going to tighten this. Make sure you go in the right direction. I think I just went the wrong direction. And you're just going to tighten that up on your mason jar so it's nice and snug. Now in this mason jar, you can, in the original it shows flowers, a little bit of water and flowers, but you could put a pad of paper in here with a pen. You could put silk flowers in there. You could put one of those battery operated candles for a party. Don't limit yourself on what you put in your little jar. Kind of think of all the different things you may need. You could hang this on your front door. You could hang it on your mailbox, wherever. So now I am going to grab my stencil. I purchased this stencil at Hobby Lobby. I think it was like $2.99. You can always use a 40% off coupon. I'm not 100% sure how much I paid for this, but it wasn't a whole lot. I'm going to pop this out real quick, and then I'm just going to line my stencil up where I want it to go. I'm not super worried about it being completely centered. I basically just want it to be where I want it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Oops paint. This is Behr Premium Plus Oops paint. If I can get it open. Alright, I can't get it open, but I will do that off camera. Basically, I'm just going to take the paint. I'm going to do the same thing, tap, 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 tap on my plate because I don't want my brush super, super wet. And then I'm going to secure where I'm going to stencil. I'm going to hold it really tight, and then I'm just going to tap with my brush. I don't want the paint to ooze, so if you really push hard, it's going to ooze under the stencil. You're better off using a drier brush and less paint and just going back over it than to put too much paint, have it ooze under your stencil and ruin your project. Then you got to go back and you got to sand it off, and that's a big pain in the butt. So I'm going to go ahead and open this paint, and I'm going to start to stencil. All right, you can see that I've already started the stenciling. I did get the jar open, thank goodness. And I like this paint because it's a latex paint. It's not an acrylic. I think it may last a little bit longer. I, again, dipped my paint in, dab it, dab it, dab it. And now see how this is kind of curved up? Obviously that's not gonna work. So you wanna just kind of hold that down and dab your paint. You just wanna kind of move your fingers around with the stencil. And so here I'm gonna start on the C, and I'm just gonna dab. And see, I'm not putting on a lot of paint at first. I'm kind of going in and then adding more as I go. If you're gonna paint the stencil, which I don't necessarily recommend, but if you have a super dry brush, always start from off the stencil and move in like this. That way you shouldn't have too much buildup. But I still like the dabbing method. I think you can control your paint a little bit better. You can control where it goes. Now I want mine kind of light. I don't want it super dark painted. I want it to look kind of antiqued, a little bit weathered, like the board, like it's been, that was the O, not the C, by the way, if I knew my alphabet. Now I'm working on the C, and I'm just dabbing the paint. You see, and that you can kind of see the brush, it's kind of striped. You're just gonna keep filling that in. You can turn your brush different ways and just make sure you get the paint in the letter. Now I think it would be really neat to do like a house number, but this way, like have the house numbers going that way, put your jar the other way, and then, you know, you could put flowers, you could put holiday items in there. I just think that you can do lots and lots of things with this type of project. That's my dog snoring. I don't know if you can hear Miss Bella. Bella is quite the snorer, so I apologize. I have shaken her, I have wiggled her around, and she goes right back into snoring mode. So as I go, I can kind of see if I want more paint someplace and just keep going. I would not pick up the stencil until I'm completely finished because you will never get it lined up again. I do not have any adhesive underneath. I really am just using the pressure of my fingers to hold the stencil down. And when I pull it up, we'll see if that was a good idea or not. I did not buy stencil brushes because I thought they were kind of too expensive for this project, and I want it to look aged and antiqued. I think I'm having 5 people at my class, so it shouldn't be too crazy. Last time I had 10 and we had 4 different projects we were making, and it was a little crazy, but we had a good time. And this project's a little easier. Now you could make these for Christmas presents. I think that would be super cute, especially like a housewarming gift. Miss Bella, you're so loud, honey. So I think I have all the paint that I want on here. And I wanted you to see on camera the moment of truth. I think I've got all the paint that I want. And now we're gonna pull the stencil up, and let's hope we didn't make a big mess of it. Ta-da! I think it looks really, really good. So then I'm going to put the jar in here, and then I'll show you how I add the wire. It's really easy, it's just kind of time consuming. But the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure I get this in the sink and wipe the paint off, because you do not want your paint to dry on a stencil, because the next time you use it, the paint will flake off and it will get into your project, and you will not be a happy camper because it will ruin your paint. All right, our next step is to add the wire. I took the jar out because it's obviously easier to work without the jar in. This is a big heavy spool of wire that I purchased at Harbor Freight for a couple of dollars when I went shopping with my husband. It does tend to get your hands dirty. I don't know what gauge wire this is, but it was like $3 for this great big roll of wire. It is heavy duty wire. You can buy wire in the craft store for this project. Just make sure it's kind of thick. I don't know if you can see, this one's kind of thick, but like I said, it does make your hands black, which it will also make your clothes black if you're not paying attention. So I just kind of measured my holes to see about how big I wanted it, with a little extra either to curl around the wire to hang it, or to make a little swirly end. I used my nippers. These are, I don't even know, these are Stanley nippers. I think I got these at Target, but these have a blade so you can cut. And then these are just needle nose, and these are mostly for bending wire, and I'll show you how I do that. So all I'm gonna do, sit this up, I'm gonna guide the wire, can you see right through that hole? And I'm gonna leave it sticking out like that. I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side. Guide it through. And I have this towel on my work surface because I didn't have time to let the stain dry on this one, because I needed to get the project done for tomorrow's class. So I'm protecting my counter. So there I have my wire. I have these ends sticking up, I think you can see. Now I want to do more of a decorative finish. I was gonna use that, but that's not gonna work. I'm gonna take a pencil that came right out of my junk drawer, pencil, and I'm gonna take the end. See, my finger is going on the wire and on the pencil, and I'm gonna bend this around. Now this wire is heavy duty, so this is a little difficult, and I'm just gonna wind it around the pencil to make this little swirly. You see that? Let me show you, get it closer. So that will hold it if you want. I just like the look of that better, but I'm going to show you a different way that you can secure it if you want. Basically, you're just going to take the wire and curl it around that like so, and you can use your needle nose to kind of pull it and make that tight. So that's another way to secure it. I like this. I just think, oh sorry, this, I think it's just a little bit more decorative. So I'm just going to kind of give it a little bend. See how I bent that right there? So it will hold that securely. And I'm going to open this one up and do the same thing on this side, because that's the detail I like. They have colored wire at the craft store if you want to use colored wire. Now again, I am not super worried about every little thing being perfect, because it is supposed to look homemade, handcrafted. I made it too tight, can't get the pencil out. Okay, let's try this way. Okay, oh look, I broke the pencil. See, things are not perfect. I'm just gonna get my needle nose in there and work it back out. All right, so there we go. And I will obviously dust that off a little bit. I'm gonna just push, I'm going to squeeze it like that to pinch it just to give it more of a curlicue. You can take this end and curl it some more if you wanted to, just so it doesn't poke anybody. Just like that, and you can see my fingers are black. So basically, you're pretty much done. You have your hanger, you have this, you have your little jar, which I still haven't tightened up. So that's the finished project. You can add ribbon here, you can add some raffia, which I think I may add some raffia. So I'm just going to put the finishing touches. I'm going to hang it up and I will show you the complete finished project. So here is the finished project on my front door. I just added some silk flowers. So a pretty fall pick would look really nice in there for the fall. I did notice that my welcome is a little crooked, so I may leave it, I may sand it, I'm not sure, but I'm definitely gonna have to fix that for tomorrow's class. So that is it hanging on my front door. So I hope you like this project. Please let me know if you do this project. I will link the original Pinterest link that I copied this from in the comments below. Please subscribe if you have not, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Bye guys!